Hello, everyone. So nice to be here with you all. And I'm really so excited when everyone puts their locations in the chat bar. It's so wonderful to know that we're connecting from all over the world, all in different times, but all in the same space. I absolutely love it. So thank you for joining us live today. And those of you who aren't with us live, thank you for still bringing your beautiful, unique vibrational signature to this space so that this content can be generated. Each and every one of you has such a unique key of vibrational signature, and together we all unlock this beautiful content. So I'm back in Perth, Western Australia, settling back in after a couple of weeks in the US, and isn't it great that we live during an era where it's so easy to move around? I know it wasn't so in the last few years for many people, but it's nice to be back in that flow again. So I'm excited to dive into today's content. Today is about health and vitality, and we're going to be looking at, with the masters, the distinctions and the differences between health and vitality as we understand it in our 3D, 4D experience and in our 5D reality that is unfolding at this time. So we have really a very, very international group today. That's just wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to be settling into my space here, diving deep within. We are going to be doing some more diagrams today as well. And hopefully you've all been receiving the recordings just fine. I wanted to share with you too, before we begin, that we have another new series starting in just a couple of weeks on March 7th, 8th. The link for it will be in your emails that you get tomorrow. If you're interested in joining us, it's a series. Unlike any we've done before, I'm actually a little bit hesitant about it because the masters are bringing through format and information in a completely new way that I haven't done before in 25 years of channeling. So if that is of interest to you, please click on the link and find out a little bit more. You may wish to join us. It's actually going to be run twice a week over 2 weeks, so that's different too. We've never done that before. I guess this year is the year of expecting the unexpected, so I am personally challenging myself to do things in new ways as well. So that's called Christos and the Flame of Ra. So yes, again, that link is up on my website and will also be in the emails you get tomorrow. Okay, so let's go. Blessed ones, we are with you. The experience in your bodies is the most potent that is available to you. And many of you have understood during your spiritual adventures, your own sense of personal journey, that perhaps the expression and the expansion of ascension is through superseding the body, moving beyond it, somehow escaping from it and this reality so that one might fully realize themselves in something greater than this, greater than your physical biology. That is how you have understood it within your third dimensional world. The spiritual inquiry has encouraged you to move beyond what you see the body as. And the body has been seen, experienced, and felt as a vessel, a container. As such, it houses the spirit, or so it is believed. As such, there is boundary and limitation to it. As such, there is a finite distinction of value for it. A vessel keeps something in form. A vessel keeps the holy waters within you, within a specific shape. It also protects. Yet what you're going to discover in our conversation today is that the opposite is actually true. And many of you have sought to transcend the limitations of the body to no avail. Perhaps some of your most potent spiritual experiences have been felt in your sense of moving beyond the body or having no sense of body. And yet, illumination within your earth reality comes through embodiment, which means that now dissension becomes the primary focus, dissension of the cosmic consciousness that you are into form, bringing the infinite into the finite, bringing heaven to earth. And so your prime focus as an evolving consciousness is not to transcend the body, but rather to bring all that you are to it. And in this way, of course, your view and understanding of what the body is necessarily changes. There are many that would say, well, the body is the temple of the soul, that the body is where the soul can be found. And this is true. It is where the soul can be experienced and accessed also. So for yourselves, if you want to experience the essence of who and what you are, you can experience within the temple first, and then within the context of your greater reality. However, your temple is that which is closest to you. And therefore, one must begin with the realization of consciousness or God or source within the temple before one can go out into the world and spread the word, so to speak, or to express more of your consciousness into this reality and shape reality, become the creators that you truly are. At first, must be felt and known within the temple itself. So, in this regard, the human physiology is holy. And you can begin to realize that so much of your religious scripture, so much of the indoctrination of structured belief and thought about what spirit and consciousness has opposition to this notion. And the opposition is that somehow the body itself is unholy, when in fact the opposite is true. So let us begin with the body on this day, because when we speak about health and vitality, of course, we are speaking about your realization of your physicality. Because when one is realized, there is naturally health and vitality. This is what self-realization is. When you realize the sacred nature of your physiology, health and vitality is the condition of your experience. Health and vitality goes hand in hand with the realization of the nature of your body. So there are many that would say, well, what are the methodologies? What are the protocols? What are the clinical pathways? What are the practices that can allow me to realize health and vitality? And this is a very process-driven, problem-solving approach, of course, because you've been conditioned to believe that your body is a problem, that it is prone to problem, that perhaps you as a human are problematic, flawed in some way. Yes. When in fact the opposite is true. So if you have self-realization about the nature of your body, that is enough. And there is no requirement for process, methodology, or clinical approach, and so on. The realization of the nature of yourself is the health and vitality that you wish to experience. So we begin in this way, and let us realize with you the true nature of your biology. Yes. So we begin with the nature of your body itself and how it exists within your world. And we wish to illustrate it for you once again, because humans like illustration. You like to see something outside of yourself to understand it. Isn't it interesting? You see something outside of yourself to know that you exist. This is the curiosity of the Maya that you live within. So you have your third dimensional experience and your fifth dimensional experience, yes. And what we say to you is that within your third dimensional experience, your body protects you. And if it protects you, there is a boundary. There is a boundary between you and your reality. And the more you understand the nature of energy, however, you realize that there is no boundary. There is only a greater representation of that which is within is without, that which is above is below. But this protectionism that you see for your temple, I must protect the body, I must protect my health, I must protect my vitality, is the very premise that creates disparity. And disparity itself is the illusion of dis-ease. So where there is protection and where there is boundary with the body and the understanding of it, there is an inclination to either accept or reject anything that occurs within your field of experience. I either accept what is happening to my body, or I accept this condition, or I reject it. I accept this kind of food, or I reject it. I accept this kind of electromagnetic wave, or I reject it. And this kind of behavior, this kind of thinking immediately renders you into a space where you are not in accordance with the cosmic rhythm and nature of vitality. So in your acceptance or rejection experience with your body, you in that moment are separating yourself from the cosmology of life-affirming experience, and you are rendering yourself into an isolated ecosystem. Now, this may be a challenging notion for humans, because humans say, well, we are subject to our environment, therefore we are not isolated. But when you begin to consider yourself as a vessel that can either accept or reject experience or externalized factors, you render yourself in a very tight simulation experience where your body is entirely subject to the collective beliefs within third dimensional reality. So as soon as you step into accept or reject, you are now subject to cause and effect, which means that you become incredibly sensitive to any kind of change in your environment, sensitive to any kind of change in frequency, sensitive to any change from a state of homeostasis that is your natural experience. So this is important because many of you, the more awake you become, the more conscious you become, you begin to put up more boundaries. And boundaries is somewhat a tenacious topic with evolving humans, because humans believe that the more aware you become, the more boundaries you will put into place. And yet what we say is one must be cautious, because if you're putting a boundary in place to either accept or reject something, you are instantly rendering yourself in a smaller ecosystem of influence, and you are now subject to environmental factors and beliefs. So once you begin to move into fifth dimensional reality, you now begin to experience yourself more expansively, which means you're not so interested in protecting your health and vitality. You're more interested in experiencing your health and vitality, move beyond a sense of containment and seep into your externalized reality, which means that you're not so concerned with your physical health. You're not so concerned with what's happening inside. You're more concerned with how am I experiencing the world vibrationally. So this tends to be more of a focus on your interior experience, and this more is a focus on your exterior experience, which means you now start to peer out of your body into reality rather than be so focused on what's happening with the condition within. And this is very important because this is where you begin to realize that your body has no boundary. And the more that you're beginning to now focus your attention on health and vitality in terms of how expansive can I be, how much can I feel myself extend outwards, you actually begin to exercise the vitality and health within you. Hear our words very carefully, because health and vitality is your consciousness being exercised. It's your consciousness being expressed. And in order for health and vitality to emerge from within the body, it needs space in order to do so. So this is where you let down the boundaries and you rather than accepting and rejecting, you now start to expand and express and embrace, which means that you are not putting a boundary between yourself and your reality. You are now beginning to inform your reality. And this is incredibly important, because what humans have learned is that your bodies and your cells consume information, and you are informed by your reality and your environment. And therefore, it is open. Your experience is open to a multitude of factors that can all affect your health, that can all affect your sense of vitality. This renders you impotent, because what it means is it only takes one small slight change in your environment and your health and vitality is completely affected. This is third dimensional reality. When you move into fifth dimensional reality, your experience is thy health and vitality comes from within. In order to experience more of it, I need to exercise it and expand it, which means that your health and vitality now becomes a question of how much am I consciously expanding my field of reference at this time. And for that, one needs to overcome their sense of protectionism and boundary. And this is why we've been saying to humans for some time, that expansion is your best protection. Because when you expand, you now begin to inform the space around you rather than be informed by your space. Very, very important. And when you begin to see this in terms of how the body is experienced, the body is viewed at this time as a sum of parts, which means that it's viewed as in terms of mechanics. It's a machine. There are all of these parts that make up your machine. And there are those scientists and those specialists who like to get very involved in the individualized roles and functions and individualized mechanisms of each of the parts of your body. Now, when you consider perhaps a complex machine, let us say a vehicle, for example, your body is considered to be a vehicle, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? When your body is considered to be a vehicle like this, it has so many different parts to it. It only takes one part to be disrupted in some way or to change in some way out of synergy with the rest of the parts that can create a system breakdown or can cause you to not function as optimally. So this view of the body of a sum of parts means that you are subject to any one of these parts deteriorating or changing its function slightly, and the whole machine is affected. When you move into fifth dimensional awareness, you begin to realize that you are not a sum of parts, that you are in essence one cell. This is what we call the notion of the one cell. And if you understand the notion of one cell, you begin to realize that all of your cells in their inherent design have the capacity to vibrate at exactly the same resonance. They can all appear to have different functions, but if they are viewed as one cell expressing itself in a multitude of ways, one cell, one energy, expressing itself in a multitude of ways, you begin to see how that reflects more of the multidimensional nature of yourself and your body. We would encourage you in meditative practices to go into a cell within your body, just one cell, and be with it there. And what you discover is that when all of your attention is just on one cell, the potency of your conscious attention on that one cell is enough for all of your other cells to begin to resonate in the same frequency. So that's when you begin to get an experience of coherence within the body, because your physical body is actually designed for coherence. When there are experiences of dis-ease or experiences of imbalance or discomfort within the body, it's because you have moved out of your awareness of this field of resonance where all of your cells are vibrating at the same vibration. And you are instead moving into an experience of, I am a mechanical expression and I am a sum of parts. There's no question of cooperation here. Here, cooperation and coherence is a task. How do I get my body to move into coherence so that the mechanics all begin to work well together? In this regard, when you understand that your body is an expression and an extension of your consciousness that comes from one source, you begin to see that you are not a sum of parts, but rather that you are an expression of the one. And if you are an expression of the one, there is really only one cell. And this is very important. It is also important to consider that humans see themselves in third dimensional reality as being in a system of exchange, an exchange of energy between yourself and your environment. And as we have discussed previously in the relationships conversation and in the finance, money, and abundance conversation, it is this system of exchange that dominates and your experience of your body. So if you are in a system of exchange, you contribute something to the environment and the environment contributes something to you. Now, of course, this would be considered to be a beneficial, symbiotic exchange of energy. So it would seem. However, what humans have not fully embraced and considered is that you don't really believe this to be true when it comes to your bodies. Because you do not really believe that it's true that your body is informing the environment as much as the environment is informing your body. You could walk into a room and you could say, well, I'm sensitive to the energy in here, or there's very loud sound, or perhaps there's pollution, or perhaps there's radiation, or whatever it is. And I am subject to that experience. My body is affected by that. But humans don't consider how much your body affects the environment. And it is this sense of imbalance that, in our view, is where humanity has as a vessel. We would wish for you to see your physical body as a portal that brings cosmic consciousness to your reality, a portal. So in third dimensional reality, and we're going to illustrate it for you again. In third dimensional reality, your body, of course, is seen as subject to reality. And in fifth dimensional reality, you are the influencer of your environment. So you are seen as a vessel or a closed system. Do you recall? We've discussed this already. Closed system. And in fifth dimensional reality, you are an open system. You are a portal. And if this is so, then it's important to realize that the key to health and vitality is to begin to actually be aware that you are informing your reality rather than being informed by it. We had a conversation with a dear one earlier today about the subject of health and vitality and the subject of cancer and radiation. And it's very interesting because, and we understand that there are many of you who have experienced this, that where there is radiation as an external point of origin, radiation in your environment, and you see that your body is subject to the radiation, there is impact that occurs, yes, but does the impact of that radiation immediately feel like a sense of vitality and health? This is interesting. Because what's happening here is that your body is being informed by external environment. Your body in this instant is not informing your external environment. Now, if you understand that you are a portal for consciousness into this holographic reality, you begin to realize that the true potency of your existence is actually to bring consciousness out through your body and inform reality. This is the fifth dimensional human, which means that the more open you are, and this is going to unfold, of course, in discourses and conversations about health and vitality in the next 50 to 100 years on your planet, when the human begins to access the potency within and begin to inform reality, there is no requirement for you to be subject to reality. Which means that if one was to have an experience of dis-ease, such as cancer, one would open up the consciousness within the body and express from it to begin to inform the reality of the diagnosis, the reality of the medical test, the reality of how others see you, the reality of how you experience your own body, rather than be informed by externalized systems of knowledge, belief, and quantification that are dictating and determining your physical experience. So this, of course, is a return to sovereignty for humans through their bodies. Furthermore, if you understand that your consciousness is here to actually inform reality through your body, you begin to realize that you're not really here to consume or absorb information from external environments. Rather, you're here to inform and shape it. And the more that you expand within yourself and are consciously expressing your energy to inform the environment around you, not only do you begin to create completely harmonious experiences of life, but you actually begin to reshape the beliefs on the planet. And this is going to get very interesting. We're going to go deeper in this moment. And for some, this will be very expanded for the mind. For others, it'll make perfect sense. If you consider that everything in your world has been a reflection, and you're now, as we discussed in part 1, moving beyond the containment of the mirror, you begin to see things in the opposite way to perhaps what you believed was true. There is an understanding and a belief within your world that the body is full, that there's so much that's actually existing within the body, that it's a very complex system. Even with your genetic strands, the length of them, the volume of them is incredulous. So you are full of volume. And even those that work in the metaphysical healing practices and have certain understandings about the mechanics of the internal space of the human, you would also say that you carry trauma inside your body, because remember, this is the view, the third dimensional view, that the body is a vessel, it carries things, it contains things, things get trapped because you get informed by your environment, so you carry it with you. This is the origin of trauma, or the belief in trauma, or a belief in trauma. And so the body becomes denser and denser and denser and denser and denser because you continue to absorb information, allow your experiences and environments to inform you. So when you go into the body to solve a problem, whether it be through a physical surgery or through some kind of energetic inquiry or process, the belief is there that the body is full. There's so much in there to deal with, like going into the engine of a car. There's a lot going on, complex. And out here, there is empty space. That's why so many of you wish to escape your bodies. It's so dense in here. There's so much in here. All of the beliefs are swirling around in here. And out here is empty space. So I want to escape. Well, blessed ones, consider this. Consider that the opposite is actually true. Because if what we are saying to you is true, and your body is a portal and not a vessel, it means that there's not actually anything going on in here at all. All of the programming and trauma and belief is actually existing in the matrices of belief outside of your body. This is empty space. This is the void. This is the cosmos. This is the space through which your consciousness enters this world. All of the concept of health, vitality, what it should be, illness, disease, trauma, pain exists in matrices of belief around out here. Could you not consider, if this is true, and you are not holding it all, but you are here to actually bring light and reinform it, could you consider for a moment that your body is not a problem, but it is the answer? That it is the sacred temple through which cosmic consciousness now can inform and reshape your reality and the matrices of belief that surround you. Isn't this interesting? That shifts the power quite considerably, does it not? Interesting. What if you were a walking void space? And all of the belief about what your body is and what you contain is actually sitting out here. Now, this is going to certainly change the way medicine is done. Interesting, isn't it? How is it that health and vitality will be practiced in generations to come? Will they be practiced here in the plasmic field, in the spaces between bodies? Or will there be an attempt to correct what is within? What is flawed? Your human design or the matrices of belief? Interesting. So we wish for you to begin to consider and experiment your health within this regard, particularly because most of the programming that you believe you have around your body and what you would wish to correct and relieve yourself of and even destroy does not actually in existence happen within your body. It happens out here. And you have an incredible potency within you to actually reshape that, reshape your experience of life, reshape it for the collective human consciousness by allowing yourself to expand and begin to influence your environment. So it's not wise for you nor productive to continue to believe that yourself is the problem. And first you must correct yourself before you can influence your environment. I'm not ready, I have more work to do. I must work on myself before I can change the world. Is that true? Because you know, blessed ones, that the layers of the onion never end. One layer and then one layer and then one layer. Throw out the onion, we say. Throw it over your shoulder. How are you going to walk out in the world tomorrow? You're going to walk out and express. And this is where we want to talk about sense for a moment. Because what humans have learned is that sense and your senses are about absorbing information, that your senses are about being informed by your external reality. Now, when you understand this fifth dimensional paradigm more clearly, you begin to understand that the opposite is true. And yes, while you can sense what is happening in your environment, it's far more powerful and potent for you to begin to use your sense to inform the environment, because your true nature of sense in the human design is actually to inform and shape your reality. Which means that what you sense now begins within you, and when you express it, it begins to take form outside of you. Sense is not about absorption. That renders you subject to your environment. Sense is about expressing, which means that you're now shaping reality. And you're not just doing it for yourself, you're doing it collectively. So your bodies are holy temples indeed. And there are further conversations, of course, we can have with you about the nature of the human body and how it moves in and out of time, how it moves in and out of space. But it's difficult for the mind to encompass this reality until you realize that everything that you have believed is the opposite of how we view it. How many of you feel as if you've been trapped within your bodies, that your energy is too big for it? How many of you were frustrated as children that you could not fly or that you could not do great feats? Isn't that interesting? Because when you feel that frustration as a child, it's because you know that it's your great opportunity and privilege and capacity to actually shape the reality around you. Now, why is it that the child comes in and it feels so frustrated? It feels so frustrated because it immediately finds itself in a reality where it is told what is true and what is not. Interesting. Now, you know that an infant, for example, is very, very good at informing and shaping its reality. Consider it for a moment, because an infant, before it's had all of the conditioning and believing that all of the programming exists within itself, an infant is very, very good at completely shaping an environment around itself. The infant cries and everybody moves. The infant's presence changes the way people are in the field around it. The infant reshapes the functioning and form of a family. The infant reshapes the body of the mother and of the father. Everything around it shifts to accommodate the child. It shifts the perception of people's journeys that are associated with the child. It shifts time. One of the first things a child does within a family or with its parents is it brings into question the consistency and scheduling of time. It disrupts all of that. Interesting, isn't it? So for you yourselves to know that your physical body is not a problem to be solved, to know that when there is a sense of dis-ease or disruption or discomfort, that the easiest approach for you is to express out beyond it and begin to give yourself permission to sense out into reality and expand beyond your discomfort rather than consolidate and contract. This also means that for many of you, going into retreat is not going to be as comfortable as it used to be because you're not actually going to want to contract, you're going to want to expand. So even if you don't want to be around many other people, you'll still want to extend your energy out, whether it be in a natural environment or within your home, or even with your inquiry. Many of you are exercising this expansion of your consciousness into the world through inquiry and through investigating new ways of thinking about things. However, we say to you, be very aware that when you come into contact with new information, even this discourse on this day, allow your sense to expand out to it. Be aware not to try to absorb it, because you don't want to absorb anything else. You want to express yourself into it. So with us in this moment, we encourage you to expand out with your senses towards this, rather than absorb it and pull it into you. You don't want to fill this up. You want to expand it out. Very well, blessed ones. The fifth dimensional experience within your body is more like a pulse and less like a cycle, which is why so many of you are feeling the pulse at this time. That's the beginning of your sensory perceptors that move out and begin to shape and inform reality. You are less subject to the cycles of history, emotional memory, and trauma, such are associated with the chakra system, the perpetual cycle of memory and trauma that continues to circulate and perpetuate the same blueprints, the same stories, the same experiences, generation after generation, time after time. That's what happens when something gets contained. It's got nowhere to go, so it keeps circulating around and around. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. And if you understand that, then to consider your body as a closed system means there's nowhere for it to go. If you are open as a portal, there's always something new flowing. There's always a new experience. And there are those physicians who are identifying and saying at this time that the cell recreates itself in every moment like a pulse. Because when you're considering yourself to be an open system, there's a continual flow of consciousness, a continual pulsing of life that's coming out of you. In this way, every day when you awaken, your body is completely new. It's only the assumption that you are circulating the same cells around and around, and that you are circulating the same traumas and circulating the same beliefs within a closed system that enables you to experience aging, for example, or a perpetuation or continuation or repetition of a disease or condition that you would not necessarily wish to have. So this is how we would wish to share our view on the shifting awareness of humanity's own biology from a closed system understanding to the true nature of your multidimensional self. Consider that you are the empty space. There is nothing to correct, but rather how will you use your potency and presence to begin to shape this new earth reality. Very well, blessed ones. It is our joy to be with you in this way. Peace be with you. Thanks so much, everyone. Hopefully you could all see and hear me just fine. I think my internet here is not fantastic, but hopefully it was enough. I hope you all look forward to getting the recordings tomorrow. I think we have a lot to consider and play with and feel into from today. It's a real paradigm shift in the way in which we sense ourselves and sense our reality, and where we're placing the power for our physical and biological experience also. So thank you so much. The diagrams and recordings will be out tomorrow. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, part 4, which is going to be about space and environment. And based on the information today, I can kind of see how we're going to lead into that, informing our reality. So I'm excited to hear about how that goes. As ever, incredibly grateful for you joining us today. I can't wait to see you all again next week as we dive into another adventure with the Masters. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful day.